Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you so much for joining the World Federation of Youth Clubs today. I'm so excited to be here with you today because not only do we have some really incredible presenters, but we also are featuring live Spanish interpretation for our webcast for the first time today. So thank you for joining us for this session on institutional strengthening as a key strategy for sustainable social impact. Before we get started, just a quick look at our agenda today. As always, we'll start with a couple of housekeeping items. We'll go over introductions to our two guest speakers, and then we'll enjoy a conversation about institutional strengthening, what it means, and we'll take a look at a real-life example. And then at the end, we'll have an opportunity for questions and answers. A few housekeeping items to keep in mind. We are recording this session, so a link will be emailed to you after the session today, and you can share this recording with anyone from your team or from your network who might want to learn more about how to improve their impact measurement and communications about their work. Live Spanish interpretation is available. If you are wanting to listen in Spanish, you can hover over the bottom of your Zoom screen to select interpretation from English to Spanish. Please stay on mute until the question and answer section. If you have a question, please ask it at any time using the chat box. Our team, including myself, Tony, and Daniel, will be monitoring the chat box to make sure your questions are answered. And then last but not least, the best view of your webcast experience is to click on View, then Speaker View, or side-by-side Speaker View. So to get us started today, please take a moment to introduce yourself in the chat. Type your name, your location, and the organization name that you're joining us from. As a reminder, if you're just joining us, please take a moment just to introduce yourself briefly so we know who is here today listening and learning together. We have a couple of friends from Mexico City today. Stephen is joining us from Ghana. Of course, Daniel's here from Orlando. We have more friends from Ghana here today, and from Rwanda, and from Sweden. Wow, we are all over the world today with this webcast. Hello from Haiti, another hello from Orlando. It's so great to see everyone. Affiliate initiatives, and I oversee our programs like the webcast, the conference, and just a range of programs, including the Promise Awards and some other fun projects that we do with our affiliate members. Today, I'm so excited to introduce you to Gabriel Escaffi from Advisors for Social Impact and Daniela Melendez of Club de Niños of Mexico. As we get started today, I'd like to ask you to think for a moment about how your organization measures impact. How do you tell the world how what you're doing works? So take a moment to type in the chat, how does your organization measure impact? Or do you feel that your community understands the impact of your work? I see a few people look like they're typing, so feel free to take just a moment to share how you're currently measuring your club's impact, or how, if you feel that your community understands the impact of your work. And then we're going to get into a great discussion about how we can improve. All right, it looks like our chat box is a little quiet today, but continue to answer this question. Oh, I see a couple of thoughts coming in. Daniela says she thinks the community understands their impact, but maybe not completely. Allison says that impact is measured using data like completion rates, testing scores, but you don't think the community fully understands the impact either. Gilbert says they do it through monitoring and evaluation of each of the projects they work on. And Nestor says through the results we achieve in accordance with the objectives set at the beginning of each project. So it sounds like our clubs and participants today do have experience and practice in measuring your impact, but it might be a little difficult for the community to fully understand what that impact means. So I am excited to turn our presentation over first to Daniela Melendez. She's going to introduce herself and talk about her experiences working in Mexico at her clubs with Gabriel Escaffi from Advisors for Social Impact. So Daniela, please take it away.
Thank you, Abby, and thank you everyone for being here and for providing us with this opportunity to share how the Mexico clubs are engaged with the institutional strengthening process. As Abby said, I'm Daniela Melendrez, National Coordinator for the Boys and Girls Club in Mexico. I'm responsible for two of the programs that we have. I'm responsible for compliance and for strengthening, for institutional strengthening of the 12 clubs that we currently have in Mexico. But I want to share with you that my responsibilities have not always been the same. I mean, before starting our institutional strengthening process, we were only focusing on expanding the number of clubs that we have in our country and seeking for fundraising opportunities for our own operations and, if possible, for the operation of the local clubs for some projects that they had. What I want to say here is that we were doing only half of our job. We wanted to expand the number of kids that were attending the clubs, and I think that's good. We were doing it right, but we were missing to ensure that the quality of these services provided to the kids were high quality, and that the kids were not attending the clubs just to spend their spare time and in a nice and safe environment, but they were attending activities that were inspiring them to become positive leaders in their community. If you can go to the next slide, Abby, please. So here is what I just said. We were missing to make sure that the quality of the service was high quality. And I hope I could say that we are currently doing right in the correct way, that we are institutionally strong enough and we are running smoothly, but we are really far from that part. But I want to tell you that just being started with the institutional strengthening process, we were aware that we have some bias on the understanding of our beneficiary needs. And we started to ask one simple question that has shed a light on the process that we have to do as national organization. As a national organization, our direct beneficiaries are the clubs, not the kids. But ultimately, we have to search for the beneficiary to beneficiate the kids. So we started to ask our stakeholders, what do you expect from us? And asking this question was the first step for our institutional strengthening. If you can go to the next slide, Abby, please. We went from having the objective of provide a nice and safe environment for the kids to have the objective to inspire the kids to become positive leaders in their community. So the next slide, please. We asked this question to the clubs: what do you expect from us? And this gave us a lot of information. With this information, the next slide, please. With this information, we were able to understand the needs and to build a SWOT analysis. And eventually this SWOT analysis became our strategic planning, in which we based all of our programs. Whenever we are going to design a project, we are going back to the strategic planning, and it's like a roadmap for us. So once we had the strategic planning, we went to from a very simple objective of wanting to expand the number of clubs and the number of kids that were attending to the clubs, to a more sophisticated objective that was to ensure that the clubs, that the local clubs are in compliance, to facilitate the institutional strengthening of the local clubs, seek for fundraising opportunities, but not just for seeking, but fundraising opportunities that are aligned to the needs of the clubs, and to spread the word of what the clubs are doing nationwide through marketing campaigns. So you can see that the objective changed a lot, that now is more with more structure, and that has helped us also to use our limited resources in a wiser way. If you can go to the next slide. So now I will focus only in the institutional strengthening program that we have. So now that we knew that the clubs needed institutional strengthening, we applied a diagnostic and we asked some questions in these 5 areas: finance, HR, risk management, fundraising, and intervention model. And once we had all the baseline and all the information of what the clubs were needing, we had a project to present to the donors. And here is somehow where the magic begins, because before this process, we were just presenting a project that, we want to expand the number of kids, we want to build more clubs in the country, but that was all. That was all that we were presenting. And thanks to this institutional strengthening process, we are now able to present more robust projects. If you can go to the next slide. So I can tell you that the fundraising process has also been easier than ever after we started with this process that I just told you about. And well, the donor organization loves the project that are based on evidence and have a sustainable impact. So that's one of the benefits that you get once you involve in institutional strengthening. If you can go to the next slide. To the next one. Right now we are working with Gabriel Escaffi in one of the programs that we have in institutional strengthening, and that's been a lot of work, but everything has been worth it. And I just wanted to, I want to invite you to see if your programs are really based on your beneficiary needs, and if you can ask yourself this question: what are my beneficiary needs? Not just the programs that we want to offer them, but that they are based on their needs. And here I want to tell you something. Maybe when I speak about HR or finance or risk management, you don't directly relate these areas with the impact that we may have on the kids, but I can assure you that if these areas are not covered and are not strong enough, you will hardly become an organization that creates an impact on the kids, and moreover a sustainable impact in the kids. That's that is I think what we are all looking for. So I just wanted to tell you this, my testimonial, and I pass the microphone to Gabriel Escaffi.
Thank you so much, Daniela. Gabriel, I'm going to get your slides pulled up here and share my screen, but you are welcome to start introducing yourself.
Thank you, Abby. Thank you, Daniela, for sharing the work that we did. It was an honor, and of course, it's a process. So there's next step that we can continue working on, but it's a good example of what we do. Well, my name is Gabriel Escaffi. I am the Director Executive of Advisor for Social Investment. In Spanish is Asesores para la Inversión Social. We are located in Mexico City, but we work in many countries. So we are going to talk about first. Thank you very much for this space. Glenn, Abby, all the staff of World Federation of Job Club. Thank you, Daniela, for opening this space. I'm very glad, and it's an honor to share with you my knowledge and experience in the organization I represent. So we are going to talk about, like Abby said, is institutional strengthening as a key strategy for sustainable social impact. So in the next slide, I will share with you the agenda. Yeah. So, well, I will introduce the organization, what do we do. Then we are going to talk about the key concepts. Then we are talking about an approach that is management for development results. Then we are going to talk about institutional strengthening as a cost or as investment. And then we are going to conclude with some ideas. After that, we can open questions and answers, of course. So the objective of this webcast today is to understand the role of institutional strengthening of civil society organizations as a fundamental aspect to improve the social impact of their intervention in a sustainable manner. So, and the next, please. So who are we? So we are a consulting firm, advisor for social investment. It was founded 12 years ago. And I don't know if we can pass to the next, please. Abby, thank you. So, why do we exist? Because we want a better, fairer, more united, and greener world that is sustainable for us and for future generations. To achieve this, we become partners with all who wants to be part of the solution. So we have 6 lines that we can check in each point of this graphic. So we have the training area where we develop training programs in many topics in a big scale. One example of that is a program that is in Mexico named Aliados. Aliados is the 2nd generation we designed and we are implementing this program. The main idea of this program is to become a program for the institutional strengthening of more than 100 NGOs in Mexico, and it's a part of 4 donors in Mexico that they have this agenda in terms of institutional strengthening very clear. But we design and we work with this pedagogical approach, but it's very important, this approach, because when we talk about institutional strengthening, we are talking about to develop capacities. So we need to understand that what we know in the consultant firm, it doesn't matter who we know. What we need is that you have and you adopt this knowledge as part of your work every day. The second area is corporate social responsibility. Where in that area we work with companies, with donors, that they want to adopt this accountable way to do what they do in the business. So they have to respond to their impacts, positive or negative, with the internal and external audience. So the idea here is they can report by sustainable reports with standards like Global Reporting Initiative. What are the impacts of their business operation? The other area is that the comprehensive audit of social impact. Here is where we work with organizations in terms of the management to understand the process, to understand the model of operations, to develop process manuals and the financial analysis. Then we have the environment and climate change area of sustainability, where we work in the climate change agenda. It's very important right now. Then we have the multi-sectoral institutional strengthening area, where we work one by one, like with Daniela and the organization, a specific part of the institutional strengthening, strategic planning, develop a manual, whatever the organization needs in a deep way. And I think I said that, yeah, and there's the last area I can see in the graphic, but is research applied for social analysis. The main idea here is that we need to understand, as Daniela said, how's the behavior of the public problem that we are working on. So we do here analysis in the field work, we do line-based, we design evaluations in terms of results or impact of any program or initiative, public or private or of NGOs. So that's ASI. And so let's go to the topic. Let's talk about continuing with the next slide, please. So two key concepts about this. There's the next, please. So when we talk about, there is another click, because yeah, it's tricky. It's a tricky presentation. It has many clicks too. So institutional strengthening is it's, I can see, you see. Well, the main idea, I don't know, one before, please. Well, yeah, here, thank you. So institutional strengthening, it's a process of continuous, gradual, and systemic improvement, which allows to improve the strategic and operational capacity of civil society organizations. So it takes time, and it is in double level, and it's very, very important. Of course, we are in the operation, and we want to improve what we see. Is very, very key, because it's the part where we have these assumptions about the challenge, about the transformation that we are looking for. So it requires adopting approach in a cross-cutting manner, as for example, human rights approach or gender approach or intersectional approach, that allow a bigger and better impact on the public problems that organizations focus on. So this is institutional strengthening. It's a process, it takes time. It means that we are open to check how is our operation, where are our assumptions as an organization, and the social impact can be defined as this effect that we are looking for after our interventions with a community of beneficiaries that we are working on. The next, please. Here. So yeah. So the question is actually, thank you. So that the question here is that I bring to you, and it's not that I have any doubt of this, but it's just the type of question that we have to do when we are working in process of institutional strengthening. Why is the work you do, NGOs, fundamental? Why? Why is this so important? So the first, in the first here, okay, I will open here more. So the first point is your focus, your intervention and focus is the people, and that's addressing the violation of the rights. So we are talking about human rights. So who can have any doubt about the importance of the work that you are doing? The second chart, the second idea, and I don't, if we can, thank you. So you are key agents in promoting more democratic and more transparent society. If we are talking about democracy in societies, we need balance in the power. We need to be more accountable, and you are part of this accountability as a society. You can monitor the public programs. You can monitor any social problem to see how are we in these terms. So public problems are complex and require a high degree of specialization, and you are working on. You have much experience working in these public problems, and we need to have this in mind when we are talking about design solutions. And in the left, please, in the blue one, in the left, because that's the left. Thank you, Ami. So the work of civil society organization as you is an ecosystem of applied methodologies to social and environmental development. What I'm saying here is that we are working in complex problems, very specialized problems. So what we have to consider is that you are an ecosystem. You are not just one organization, you are many organizations working on public social problems. So you are like a laboratory in terms of you are creating information, knowledge key in terms of understand the problem and the academic sector and to propose solutions or public policies. So civil society has an impact on public problems, on the needs that cannot be met by the private initiative and that are not covered by the state. And this is an important idea. Of course, we know that the state is part of the solution, private sector could be, but there's part of the population, there's part of society that cannot get involved because the state has failures, of course, and you're working with this part of the society that they are not being covered by the public service that they need, or maybe they cannot get their product or service to have a quality of life, a good quality of life by the market logic. And the last but not less important is the idea that it's a good lesson, but in a hard way that we are learning by the pandemic that we are living, is that the well-being of some is the well-being of all, and you are working for the well-being of all. Okay, we have very clear, we have some arguments, not all, but some of them, about why is it fundamental, the work that you're doing. The next question is, why strengthen civil society organizations institutionally? Well, first, the one idea I think we need to think is, unlike other sectors, such as the private sector, yeah, we don't have profit, right? As a sector, we cannot have profit. So if we don't have profit, budget for invest in our capacities, in innovation, in being more competitive, because maybe we don't have to be more competitive, but we have to be more sustainable. So we need to think that in terms of institutional strengthening as a part of our sustainability. And so if we exist, we can be part of the solution. The second argument is you are dealing with complex problems, as I said, and if we ignore it, we can put in risk not only our social development, we are in risk also our economic, environmental, and political one. Because what I'm saying here is that we cannot separate social, economic, and environmental and political dimensions. They are connected. So we need to think on that when we talk about why we should strengthen our civil society organization to have more impact. The third idea or argument about this is that we need specialized tools because are required to have a better understanding of the social and environmental problems that we are and the behavior over time. What I'm saying here is that, of course, they are complex problems, but at the same time, they are changing. The environmental agenda or climate change agenda 50 years ago was so different right now, right? So now it's one of the priorities for all the countries because it's affecting us and it's affecting the ecosystem. So it's a big risk. So our public problems are changing, and we need tools, and we need approach, and we need knowledge to understand better how is the behavior in the time. Another idea is that there are more and more problems, and you know that, right? So we need to be more efficient in terms of the use of the resources. And this is related to strengthen our organization institutionally. So every day, the last one, argument 5 is thank you. Therefore, the resources that we are vital in terms of an institutional strengthening plays a fundamental role in this regard. Thank you, Abby. So now we have been talking about the importance of the work you do, the importance of the institutional strengthening. So the question is, how can we do this? How can we apply? How can we, from the theory approach to the reality, to the operation of this approach? Well, talking about strategic objective, governance body, strategic communications, our indicators, social impact. Yes, we are talking about all these and more. This is a universe. It's almost infinite in terms of, but the main question is, with what framework? We need a framework that can give us the tools, the fundamentals to be sure that we are aligned in terms of our purpose, right? Because we want to have an impact in terms of social, environmental, and economic dimensions in a sustainable way. So this is management for development results approach. They have 5 dimensions that consider pertinence, efficacy, efficiency, availability, and sustainability. And we are going to go deeper in the next slides. Okay, so why we should use this approach, and why do we promote in ATSI? Because it provides the framework for the structures and give meaning to the commitments that your organization makes through your interventions. So first, this is a methodology that allows a scenario in which the impact achieved is a consequence of your own strengthening, that it is a way for your organizations to ensure that they are fulfill their purpose. Right? The second idea is, okay, this encompasses tools that make it possible to carry out in an organized manner the process of institutional strengthening of civil society organizations. This is a process, and we need an organized manner with a logic. So the purpose of this approach is to strengthen your organization so that your interventions are oriented toward positive transformations and a sustainable social impact. So how does it work? And I gave us one example, a very good, for example, in the pertinence. When we're talking, we are talking first, how is this diagnosis about the beneficiaries that we're working on? What characteristics they have? What need they have? In terms of what? Where are the arguments that we you can listen me well. Yeah. Okay, perfect. So
Gabriel, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Are we where you'd like to be?
okay, my connection is unstable. Okay, I will put on off my cameras. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. So now it's better. Good. So efficacy is about, well, what alternatives we have to have an impact in terms of the problem that we are looking for, no? That we are trying to impact in a positive way. And efficiency is the way we operate it. So that's the first one, the first and the second dimension is related to this. How can we conceive the problem? How do we see the problem? How do we see alternatives? The third dimension is about how can we operate. So in terms of public policy, we can say that 50% of our successful is in the design. The other 50% is in the implementation. And the design is very, very, is a direct way. So how do we see the problem? So efficiency is in terms of how can we operate this, with what kind of staff, with what budget. And evaluation is the capacity to measure our impacts in terms of results or impact and monitor our performance. And sustainability, we do a separation here. Is sustainability in terms of our impacts with the beneficiaries we are working on, so it can be permanent, but at the same time, it's the sustainability in our organization. It's very, very related with the efficiency, right? So that's the point here, because it is very important that we don't see NGOs as a magic box. When I say a magic box, it's like, okay, get the budget and bring me the best solution, and I will give you $1 million or $1,000, and I want everything in the field with the beneficiaries. We need to understand that this budget passed through humans working for humans. So we pass through an organization that have needs, that has process, and it's important to see that. The next slide, we are going to see some tools related to the stage of this process. So how can we work the institutional strengthening process? In the pertinence analysis, we can ask two questions. That is, why is it important to perform the intervention? Why is it important? And what is the public problem you are responding to? To answer this question, we can use the diagnosis, as Daniela was sharing with us, and we can work in the problem tree and objective tree that let us to see the problem in terms of causes and effects, and let us to characterize with many approach. Here is when we use the approach, and they're very important: gender approach, human rights approach. Where are the human rights that are here related to this public problem? We can use the intersectional approach to understand the origins of these beneficiaries, all the characteristics that we need to understand, because in sense of agency, they are part of the solution, right? Then we can go to the stage of analysis of intervention model. What is the desired change you wish to achieve with intervention? Under what assumptions does the organization operate? And here we can use very fashionable now theory of change. Everybody talks about, do you have your theory of change? And then we can work with the intervention model redesign. In the third stage, we can work on management model analysis. Here the questions are, how is your economic, financial, and operational management? What are the implementation profiles required for the intervention? And we can use the techniques of the tools of change of results, analysis of process and procedures, analysis of financial sustainability. And then we can talk about the monitoring and evaluation system design. How are intervention results measured? What is the impact of the intervention? So we need monitoring and evaluation system, performance indicator matrix, and indicator fact sheet. But when we talk about evaluation, we cannot talk about evaluation if we don't have clear our pertinence analysis, because it depends how do we see the problem, the transformation we are looking for, and is there here the strategic objectives that we are going to measure. The next, please. So the next question, I brought many questions here because I think it's part to share this knowledge. Is institutional strengthening is a cost or is an investment? Of course, you can get my answer. An institutional strengthening of civil society is an investment, of course, to achieve sustainable social impact. So, as we know, anything that generates profit, private or social, tangible or intangible, can be considered an investment. So here we have shared many reasons. Capacity building is based on in the sense of agency. So we are creating capacities and it has a return. The ability to measure requires institutional strengthening. The ability to understand any public problems requires institutional strengthening. And the ability to understand permits us to conceive projection of change that will allow us to measure and scale our interventions. So institutional strengthening allows for a greater impact in a more efficient and sustainable manner, resulting in a return of your investment. So institutional strengthening allows to build a common language in terms of a linkage of our causes with international agendas and sustainable development goals, for example. So making a difference requires a broad and solid understanding of public issues. Maybe one or more of your organization have in their intervention model the advocates. If we want to advocate in public policy, we need to understand, have a solid understanding of the public issues and how can we improve. So institutional strengthening provides more effective tools to procure resources, fundraising. And institutional strengthening allows for greater articulation, the building of alliance, and a greater social fabric within the same development sector. Here, this idea is very important. We need to see us as a sector. So in terms of conclusion, let me share some ideas with you, please. So the impetus of our action, of being part of a solution, and when we can and must dialogue with the interest in observing our action and opening channels for improvement, which we allows to have a greater impact and share challenge and good practice. What I'm saying here is we need to be conscious about how do we operate, how are we operating, how can we improve our operation, our assumptions, our achievements. Thank you. And the other idea, I'm not trying to be negative. It's the opposite. I'm very, very optimistic about the work that we are doing, that you are doing. But it's important to have this idea in mind. Institutional strengthening can be an intimidating and challenging process, like any introspective process. And not only for the organization, for the staff of the organization, for each one that are part of, we are part of these causes. Because the questions are hard questions, of course. Is pertinence our work? Are we going in the correct direction? But at the same time, it is stimulating and opens horizons to understand that these small and sometimes monotonous activities that we are doing every day has a meaning in the short, medium, and long term that translate into one or more people being able to fully exercise their rights. So ideas that are important is public problems are complex and require a high degree of specialization. So we need institutional strengthening to get more to be up to date. Civil society organization intervention is the people and addressing the violation of their rights. So we are talking about human rights. Institutional strengthening improve the strategic and operational capacity of civil society organization. To talk about development is to talk about institutional strengthening, is to talk about people and their needs. And the well-being of some is the well-being of all. in our intervention and as a sector. In the institutional strengthening is a key strategy for that. So thank you very much. I hope this knowledge is useful for you, and I'm open to any questions you have.
Thank you so much, Gabriel. We'd love to open this up to questions from our participants today. So if you are feeling shy, you can type your question in the chat, or we welcome you to come off mute and join the conversation and ask questions directly of Gabriel and Daniela. If you think of questions later on and you, because we always do, as soon as we walk away from the meeting, we think of 3 questions you wish we'd asked. You can always email me or Gabriel, and we'll help get you the answer. Frank, did you come off Zoom to ask come off mute to ask a question?
Yeah.
Okay, well, continue to enter any questions into the chat. I see we got a comment that said, great presentation. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm going to share a couple of quick announcements about what's going on with World Federation of Youth Clubs, and please feel free to continue dropping your questions into the chat. So I am sharing my screen, and I want to make sure you see the right thing. Does everyone see a slide that says what's next? Okay, so coming up soon in World Federation of Youth Clubs, just a quick reminder, we always send out a follow-up survey after our webcast sessions. Please take a couple of minutes to complete that. And when we send out the survey, if you have any questions or thoughts, or if you would like to get some more resources about institutional strengthening, please email me. I would be happy to help you with that. The recording of this presentation will be available, and we'll also include that in your follow-up email. I wanted to mention that there is an opportunity coming up for World Federation of Youth Club members to participate in a special survey and research study with a graduate student who's actually in our meeting today, Nate Fleischman. He is an international development graduate student who's doing a research study in program outcomes and evaluation, impact measurement, and it's going to help World Federation of Youth Clubs better help you and your clubs strengthen your organizations, measure your impact, and communicate that impact back to your community. So there will be a special thank you incentive for everyone who participates in that survey. So please stay tuned about that. Our next webcast is August 25th. At 11 a.m. Eastern Time on media and presentation skills training. Please register for that. We'll include a link in your follow-up. I also want to remind you that on August 9th, World Federation of Youth Clubs is hosting a special global community conversation with our CEO and president, Kirk Dominic. We've had some changes at WFYC, including staff, new staff, and some changes in roles. We'd love to talk with you about all that's coming up this year, give you some inside updates about the survey that that our members recently filled out about your experiences with WFYC, and it's an opportunity to get to know the team and ask any questions that you'd like. I do see that there was a question in the chat asking for the slides from this presentation. We will include the slides in the follow-up email that we send out tomorrow, so I will make sure that you get those. And if you have any questions at all, you can always reach out to me or contact admin@wfyc.org. Thank you so much to our presenters and special guests today. We really appreciated hearing from you, Gabriel and Daniela. Thank you again for sharing your time and your skills and expertise with us. I'm going to end the recording shortly, but we will leave the Zoom room open for a couple of minutes if anyone has questions that they would like to ask of our presenters. So thank you again.